So we're kind of having one of those Dokkan days where I have a bunch of things I want to talk about, but I don't want to really make them their own separate videos. And the reason is because I think it's kind of just spams you with uploads. So if you want to just see a section of this video, please look at the timestamps. I'll lay them out for you, each talking point. But we're going to start with private servers because private servers are back in the Dokkan news cycle. And I figured I just want to say my piece on this because I've talked about private servers a lot. Well, not a lot, but I have strong opinions on private servers. We have Iron Cane's initiating tweet here saying, was watching the homie Slay summons, and man, he hit the nail on the head. When it comes to the whole private server this conversation at Dokkan, did he tell a lie? I also saw Dokkan Asset talking about private servers, and I just want to say my piece. So Slay holds a perspective that, like, if you're on private servers, then literally why are you on the game, like, outside of like gacha addiction? Because you should just, play the server at that point. Like, why are you doing both? And some people counter with like a sense of ownership. We have people saying like, Celtic says like it's more like a Pokemon Coliseum versus Pokemon Showdown, blah, 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 blah. And this all came from Iron initially finding out that people like use private servers to upload showcase cases in advance. People like Truth, people like Dokkan World, and others who post clips online. And I want to say that I think people sort of miss the mark when they talk about private servers. Because we sort of get lost in the shuffle. Some people are like, get off corporation's dick. Some people are like, that stuff is always wrong, and then people just use it for bait, and then they're not actually playing the game. Truth always says you're not actually playing the game. And others will say, well, Truth has to upload private server content because it's his job. It's his job. I just want to say that my personal opinion on private server anything is that you can use a private server, but do not grandstand to me. Truth is... I like Truth, by the way. If I ever like disagree with Truth or anything, just know that I don't have anything personal. I don't know the man. Never spoken to the man in my life. I think there's been one time where Truth and me responded to one another in like a random ass like Twitter comment, right? That's it. So when I say this, I don't mean this to poke at him, but I mean this to just check everybody who does this shit. If you are someone who is talking all that rah morality, people shouldn't use private servers because the people on it are scummy, blah, blah, blah. If you were here for when the first big occurrence happened where Dokkan Battle's private servers led to grooming allegations, like, minors in peril, the people who led it, I can't remember what the Dokkan Battle server was called, but the people who led it were just, wilding, like... That's the shit that doesn't sit right with me, because I don't think you should I think you should demonize them. But if you're going to then take the high ground that people who use the private servers are supporting that, but then you yourself use it because it's your job to have this content out fast, I think that's a shitty thing to do. Full stop. I don't care if you're Truth. I don't care if you're Dokkan World. I don't care if you're some random motherfucker on YouTube. The reason people fail in their performative activism is because they don't stand on no business. That's why I ain't never been on no private server. I got no interest in being in a private server. I believe that private servers, especially for gacha games, which can cost you upwards of thousands of dollars to rainbow Dokkan characters, hold an inherent and unfortunately corrupt amount of power. We look at it as though it is just this vacuum, you play the game or you don't. But ultimately, Dragon Ball is a game and a series and a franchise targeted at children. And I'm sorry, I just kind of never want to be in spaces where minors are, period. And I don't really want to be in spaces where something as invaluable as, gacha currency essentially, can be levied at minors, period. So that's my opinion there. Let's get into the next talking point. Again, no disrespect to anyone involved or anyone who like defends this but then uses private servers or anything. It's like I'm really not trying to come at anyone specific. I just don't fuck with the fake morality personally. You should stand on that because you are setting bad examples for young people, even at the cost of your bag. I could have 1 million subscribers right now. I'm not getting on no damn private server. That's just me, though. So next we have the Truth saying, yeah, Blue Kalkin Goku is the worst Golden Week Dokkan Fest of all time. Seems pretty obvious to me, and I'm actually going to refresh this to see if any newer comments were left in responses. This is just going to be a section where we talk about Kalkin Goku, and specifically the idea of buffing characters who come out weak. I don't know if anyone else has been seeing this, but there has been a bit of a call where like, hey, hashtag buff Super Saiyan Blue Kalkin Goku. And I agree with it, man. He's a defensive unit, goes trolling. At least visually he looks good, it's very true. Fake positivity. But he performed well for me under 2 AGL Gogeta actives, Tech UI domain support, and Go Frieza support. You're braiding, yeah. It's just one of those things where it's super unfortunate, right? Because Dokkan, and this is going to be the point I get into after this one, is going to be the bulk of my interest in making this video, but also I didn't want to just to make it this. Dokkan has a really big problem in it versus other gacha game. People speak about gacha, and they speak about games in general, live service games. We should just say live service games. People speak about live service games as if Dokkan is committing a common sin rather than unique sins of its own. Dokkan, in a lot of ways, commits unique sins to itself, and because it's a gacha, we're sort of just left with, well, you shouldn't take it. Yeah, whatever. You know, Dokkan sucks right now. Dokkan releases a bad character, and thus there's literally not going to be anything to do for the next 3 weeks. And, well, it's a gacha. You know, that happens. You know, not taking into account more regularly occurring events, much better fight balancing, much more engaging fights, much more engaging content patches. For whatever reason, we just sort of don't talk about that ghost until something like this happens. Until we are faced with Kalkin Goku, Blue Kalkin Goku, who's an extremely hype unit in theory, being fumbled, and now we sort of have to remember that, like, oh, you know, hit releases, but if you don't want hit, you're done. You just got to Golden Week. You thought Daima was coming. They showed Kalkin Goku. He looked visually very cool. It revealed that he was a fumble, and now you are done. You know what I mean? And to a lot of people, it's like, well, you know, just play something else. And it's like, you know, people do want to play the things they like. And if you like Dokkan, you would more often than not like it to be good rather than bad. And when it's bad, it's really fucking bad. But for whatever reason, you know, it's just, I don't know. Dokkan has an interesting hive mind around it, but that's pretty consistent with just how a lot of IP fans tend to treat their thing that they like. That said, what about Kalkin Goku? Should he be buffed? Yes. He's a major character. He's not just one of these rinky-dink filler characters. He's not only a Goku, but he is a Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan Goku, Kalkin, and this isn't coming out again for a very long time, probably. And I think he deserves it. I don't even think that so many times this year. Can we just go back on it? How many times when it came to the filler banners did we see a character who literally just needed to hit slightly harder? Like, are you kidding me? So we had, I guess, can we sort by release date? Yeah. How many times did we have a character that just needed to hit slightly harder? Kalkin Goku literally just needs to hit 2 times as hard. Maybe even 3 times as hard. Go down. Go down, go down, go down. Vegeta literally just needs to hit 3 times as hard. Cell literally just needs to hit 3 times as hard. If you do that to all 3 of those characters, we're safe. We're done. It's actually, that's it. You can have the fumbles in the kit. You can have the odd conditionals, but I can't like sit here and tell you in earnest that you need to pull when every single event has Vegito, you know, Vegito HP. Every single event is trying to tank this guy and they can't. Do you think I'm going to tell you to pull on 12 million attack Andy? No way. Right? So that's a big thing. I would love to see how can Goku get a buff. I think he deserves it. I don't think it's that big a deal. We see it in other gacha all the time. It's not that weird. For whatever reason, Dokkan just treats these characters like, there they go. They're adults off into the wind. We never have to touch them again. They're gone. And it's just like, it doesn't need to be that way. It doesn't. And it's another thing. It's another thing with Dokkan where people are like, oh, don't worry about it. And then like something happens and they're like, well, why don't they do this? And it's like, I thought you told me not to worry about it. You've been telling me not to worry about it. So we should probably not be worrying about it, right? Like, oh, they release a Golden Week character who's literally the worst one they've ever released. Just don't worry about it. You know what I mean? So it is kind of one of those things where I do love Dokkan. Maybe I've been negative here or there. Maybe I've been critical here or there. But it's mostly because I really like Dokkan and I like playing Dokkan. So I want Dokkan to be good so I can play it more. You know what I mean? And I think the things are easy. So let's get into the next point. And we're going to leapfrog off of that with aBitTooChaotic's thread here of thoughts regarding the mobile game Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle. I saw this randomly on my timeline and was like, this looks interesting, so shout at them. Dokkan's appeal as a game is very limited. It pretty much lives and dies by the reception of the newest units and the difficult content surrounding them. True, when units, teams are unfun to use, the game just isn't fun to play. The gameplay of Dokkan isn't interesting on its own. It requires new events and units to keep it feeling fresh. And when those units events are handled poorly, Dokkan doesn't really have another leg to stand on. Nobody is logging on to the game because they enjoy the story of quest mode. It's crazy to me that there are really only a handful of units in Dokkan that even feel like they have their own identity. And I'm going to stop here. This is huge. This is huge. I say it all. I talked about it before. Identity is the mind killer in Dokkan. If you're a character with any sort of identity in Dokkan and you're not just like obtusely broken, you're fucking doomed, dude. Because look what happened to the anniversary units. The identity of exchange units. Vegeta was insane. The Goku and Vegeta side of Gogeta's card, oh, they look a little shakier. They look a little shakier, don't they? They do. And then, oh, Frieza, you're not very good. And those cards have a sense of identity just baked into them because they're exchange units, so they're very different based on which side of the card they're on, right? That identity word is a death sentence for Frieza. But hey, Goku looks pretty good. Characters with identity just end up suffering so much more in this game. And that isn't how anything should be. I don't care what you say. The homogeny of Dokkan Battle and the homogeny of Dragon Ball Legends and the excuse being that one of them's a PvP game. I hate to be this guy. Dragon Ball Legends PvP isn't so good that like this is a great talking point. It's okay. But like compared to other like PvP gacha, let's say, not like other PvP console games or something, but like PvP gacha, it's just okay. I've played a bit of Dragon Ball Legends. Like it's pretty fun. But it's not like some hyper competitive like landscape, they're not running constant tournaments for the game, in Epic 7 they're running big deal fucking tournaments over there, you know what I mean? So the balancing of that is a little trickier. So when someone's like, oh, Legends gets away with this, or Legends needs saving but Dokkan doesn't, it's like, bro, these games are not that fucking different. Let's calm down. So many new premium releases do nothing to stand out, which is made even worse by the fact that half of them feel undertuned when you make them against the difficult content. There ends up being almost no incentive to use the most new characters, and the game just evolves into bringing the units with the biggest numbers to beat the boss with the biggest numbers. It isn't enjoyable. Dokkan is such a good game when you actually have the opportunity to build a new, interesting team to tackle the stage, but that opportunity is starting to feel pretty rare. This is a great little segment because, hey, what happened last year? Worldwide download celebration hits. The Broly team, oh, I don't know, 2 Brolys in one celebration? That kind of makes team building hard, and guess what? I ate my words, because the Broly team ended up being such a tight, cohesive, functional, fun team with gaps where the characters weren't all just broken. They were all good, but they weren't all just completely broken, which made them interesting. The Broly team is one of the heights of Dokkan to me. alongside the Majin Power team. And guess what? Those teams age out. Unfortunately, can you sense the pattern there? The pattern is that both of those are extreme units. Extreme teams, rather. Extreme teams tend to be the more fun teams to run, and it's not because they're better, it's usually because they're kind of worse. And I know that sounds odd, but people will say, oh, I want my unit to be this, I want my unit to be good, I want my unit to be that. The thing is, though, we can have both. There's this weird thing where, Truth says that, people want content, and then they give us content, and then, we scream and we cry and we get so mad and we tear out our hair. But it's like, we can have good content. It's not that we just want slop. You know what I mean? For whatever reason, everyone's so addicted to winning arguments on Dokkan Twitter and in Dokkan videos that, like, the actual context of the statements gets lost a bit. But, like, when teams are really fun in Dokkan, it's not because they're Vegito's team. It's kind of because they're, Broly's team. I kind of want... Because the game is RNG, right? And it is numbers. But there are situations where you do need to float characters in advance. You need to make choices to use, can I transform here? Maybe I can hold off on it. Maybe I could take the risk that I can use a domain here. And those, like, that give and pull, that push and pull of risk reward is Dokkan firing on all engines, right? It doesn't have to be 2023 Dokkan or Beast Gohan's team in 2024. We can blur the line a little bit. We can have characters and teams that can struggle in areas, and you have to construct them in a way that lends you. Because you know what, one of the big things about Dokkan right now is there's a team I call the Festival 5, which is the 5 characters you always bring to Festival of Battles, and then there's one more slot so you can showcase a character, and you can say that character got through the fight themselves. Wouldn't it be kind of interesting in Dokkan if you had a slot 1 character who, hey, they didn't do that much damage, but they hold down that slot 1. Maybe their name is, I don't know, Int Broly. You had a slot 2 character who does a lot of fucking damage, and he doesn't die because he's in slot 2, but hey, sometimes he can get caught by a super. Sometimes you need to guess, that's a lot of pressure in slot 2. Maybe I need to move him to slot 3. Maybe let's call him Tech Easy A Broly. Are you seeing where I'm fucking going with this? Dokkan doesn't have to be this stagnant and boring. But, like, for whatever reason, we're just in, like, this twilight zone where everyone thinks that every statement is an entire extreme devoid of any nuance. You shouldn't feel forced into the same cookie-cutter team lineups. The new premium Sunable units should have some incentive to be ran. They shouldn't just be completely outclassed in every way by 20 other units. And to this, by the way, because I actually had someone say that, they like that the power creep hasn't been as, swamping this year. Like, that doesn't swamp them this year. And I will say that I think 2024 showed that Dokkan is very capable at making the top, 15 to 20 characters solid. Super solid. You didn't always have to be running Beast or Broly. That top 15 looked really tight last year. It looked pretty tight going into this year. Especially if you're not just doing LRs, you're doing just units. Like, Gloria looks great right now. Glorio's like 5 months old or something, right? They don't need to power creep the game. They just need to be unique. It really shouldn't be that hard. You can easily think of so many interesting kits if you don't restrict yourself to the generic formula the devs have locked themselves into. It's something I talk about a lot, man. This is a thread after my own heart. I don't really click on threads that often, but this is a thread after my heart. If you think that Dokkan being the bubble popping game means that there's no flexibility to it, go look at the build concept, people, right? It's really not that hard. I gave you a fix. I predicted what Vegeta and Goku would do, like, the moment they said they were going to be an exchange unit. And then guess what? I said, hey, this is what Go Frieza should do. And then they didn't do it. You know what they did? They locked themselves into Goku and Frieza being the same fucking unit as Vegito and Gogeta with none of the upside. Why? Go Frieza doesn't have a fusion where they can obliterate the game by themselves. That's fucking... Frieza is a fish. You know what you do instead? You say, turn 1, I can switch into Goku. You make Frieza's under 70% condition extremely powerful. You make it so that if you have to switch into Frieza at 70%, Frieza is a god. That way you can actually play with the HP. But because instead they decided to completely limit the character to play around these arbitrary exchange rules, we have Go Frieza, who looks a lot worse than Vegeta and Goku using into gods of the game. Doesn't make any sense. I really do like Dokkan. I want to do well. It just really hurts watching them fumble the ball repeatedly on the simplest things. And that's where we're going to leave this off. I explained my thoughts going through the points, so I'm not really going to rehash, but yeah. With all that being said, I really do like Dokkan. Again, if you've made it this far, don't take this as like, oh my god, the sky is falling. I really don't think it is. Daima is going to be the make or break point for Dokkan this year, I think. Tanabata looks really fun because Tanabata is typically the character who will next match up with the anniversary LRs. Like if we think about it last year, until UI Goku dropped, UI Sign Goku dropped, we weren't really talking about Beast Gohan moving. You know, we weren't having those conversations. So Hanabata is the next destination. Worldwide is the destination after that. And Worldwide was the characters that finally were better than Beast, if you asked a lot of people. But, you know, up to your discretion. So yeah, I would look to Tanabata and Worldwide as your next destination. Don't worry too much about this Golden Week, I think. And yeah, like you like the video, subscribe, join the club. We all go make it, and peace.